never gets old. Hello again YouTube, and welcome back to Just Get a Tesla. Now, a question that gets asked of me quite a bit is, what's the ride like in your car? Aren't they all like lumpy and bumpy, and like, you know, is it a bit harsh, and you know, is it a comfortable car? Well, yeah, it is. It really is. And let's just talk about why that is, and then I'm going to hop in the car and we're going to drive it. We're going to do some fast country roads, we're going to do some broken up tarmac in towns. Let's give it a bit of a workout. The main thing to note is my car is a Model Y long range, and it is sat on these 19-inch wheels. Now, they are quite fat 19-inch wheels, by which I mean there is quite a lot of tyre there. These are wide tyres. These are 255 width tyres, so they are pretty fat. And I don't know, for me, you could argue that the 20s would definitely be better and fill the arches a little bit more, but I don't understand this nuclear arms race that we seem to have with car wheel sizes. I mean, you know, you go back even a decade and you didn't have cars where they had to have bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger wheels. I don't think they look bad at all, but it's just one of those things where, you know, do you need bigger wheels? Let's put it like this. I test drove one of these on the 20-inch turbine wheels, and the ride was a little bit harsher. Not completely crazy, but not as pliant as this. So my car was made in Giga Shanghai in China during the autumn of 2022. As I understand it, the cars that are being built in Giga Berlin have got a slightly softer suspension. I suspect that has been done basically for European roads where you need a little bit more give, but honestly, I haven't had an issue with this. What I would say is that the ride is definitely firmer than it was in my 2018 Mitsubishi Outlander plug-in hybrid full-size SUV. But here's the thing, everything had firmer suspension than my Mitsubishi Outlander. The thing just wobbled around like you wouldn't believe. The hardest riding car that I had was probably the Volvo S90 that I had, which was on 20-inch wheels, and you know, that was a bit brittle, especially, you know, I'm here in the northeast of Scotland, and the roads, you need a little bit of give, and the Volvo was unforgiving. It was fine up and down the motorway, anything outside of that, not great. Going back before that, you know, I've had BMW 5 Series, 3 Series, I've had Ford Mondeos, all of those sorts of cars. This is fine. This is absolutely fine. Anyway, let's get in it, let's get driving, and I'll talk you through what I'm experiencing. I think one thing that I would say about the ride in this car is that although none of it's uncomfortable, and although it is being nicely compliant with, you know, following the road, and I'm not feeling any issues with the steering or anything like that, there is a point about the way that all of these different bumps transmit themselves through the car. Because let's be entirely honest about this car rattles in a few places. Now, I don't know how much of that is to do with the way that the suspension is set up, and how much of that is to do with Tesla's build quality, or it's just me because I haven't actually ironed all of the little bits out. It's by no means driving me mad, and there were a couple of bits where I figured out why it was rattling and managed to make it stop. But there are just some things about the car which do rattle, and it's not so much like, you know, a sort of a harsh rattle, or even where you can hear it's a particular thing. It's just that when you go over some of the bigger bumps, it transmits itself, you know, through the bodywork. And let's understand again how this car is built. So Tesla use a structural battery pack. So the bottom of the car is all of the battery cells in basically a metal enclosure, with then two giant pressings on front and rear, which house the motors. So if you have a front motor, and definitely the one at the back, and then the suspension and the wheels and so on are attached to that, and the body shell on top. So you have got this real stiffness in the floor from the way that they build these things, and that does mean that it is inherently going to be stiffer than it would be if it was built another way. It is a comfortable vehicle to sit in over long distances. And again, you know, I have driven this car literally all day, right? I've done your 500 plus mile road trips in a day and got out the other end feeling relaxed. So the suspension is by no means uncomfortable. It is a little firm, but that does mean that you can chuck the thing around bends. And if I ever manage to get past this van ahead of me, then I'll be able to show you, or we'll do it on the way back. Let's just talk about things that you can change in terms of settings. So on the pedals and steering menu, there's a couple of different choices for both acceleration mode and steering mode. So acceleration, I have got options of standard, which is full beans, let's go for it, or chill, where it just tones everything down. I often use chill for longer trips because frankly it's just more relaxing. And then steering mode, where if you've got a performance model, then that will say sport instead of standard. Again, if that's your thing, great. That definitely has stiffer suspension than this car, so the ride really will be firmer. Steering mode, you've got a choice of comfort or standard or sport. I mean, I'll be honest, it does make a difference, but I don't think it makes that much of a difference. You know, it quickens the steering a little bit, but I find most of the sport settings for steering just to be a little bit overboard. I'm just knocking autopilot off there, just basically because I could see all those vehicles behind the truck and I just wanted to be ready in case anybody did anything stupid. What I do like about the way that this car is set up is that you can hustle along, okay? So this is a car that is designed to stay planted as you go around bends. And it's also designed to stay planted when you're applying all of the power that it's got. Remember that this is a big family crossover vehicle. I can take my whole family and a whole pile of luggage on long distance trips and everybody gets there in comfort. But at the same time, it's also a bit of a beast because it has got ludicrous amounts of power and it can apply the ludicrous amounts of power at any given speed all at once, because this car has got maximum torque available at whatever speed you're doing, because it's electric motors. It doesn't have to wind itself up, it just goes. So you want stability, you want the car to not bounce around or to roll particularly, because this is a performance vehicle. I mean, you know, again, it's a family car, but it's bloody rapid. So you want it to give you that level of confidence, shall we say. And I think confidence is the right word. That, you know, it is going to not bounce you off into a field. So many people in this part of northeast Scotland, lads especially, young lads in hot hatches, they do tend to bin them off into fields. So they'd get to a bend like this, get it wrong, whee, off into the field, and you'll see them there waiting to be recovered. It is quite odd, really. But anyway, bends. So this is a tight bend, and I can accelerate through the bend there, as I just did, and the car is nice and planted. And again, that's what the stiffer suspension does to you. Can I just say, every time I come along this road, so this is coming down into Macduff, and this is Longman Hill, this settlement that we're in. You go around here, and you've got the sea and the sky and the land, and oh, it is just amazing. If you've not been to this part of Scotland, you have to come. Come and spend your money. You know you want to. So we are coming out of the 50 limit into 60, and then we've got this bend coming up. This bend is quite tight, it certainly tightens up, but what I'm going to try and do now is to show you basically what the car is like for handling. So I'm actually accelerating through the bend and it is planting itself quite nicely. The other thing, of course, you can do is when you decelerate by using regen through bends, what it tends to do is it tucks the nose in, and I think that is something that works with EVs that you don't get with a lot of other vehicles. That lift off mid-bend, you know, can be bad. Lift off understeer is a bad thing if anyone has done any handling. But this actually tucks the nose in even harder, which does mean that you can hustle the thing along and not be afraid particularly. And that does make it an entertaining car to hoof it across country in. So I've just seen quite a bit of cracked areas on the left hand side. We just had a dipped manhole drain cover, and honestly this is absolutely fine. You've got areas here where they've added higher grip tarmac to remind you to slow down. You can feel a little bit of the bobbling coming through, but only just about. Other than that, you know, this is actually reasonably decent tarmac, I suppose, for towns, but we'll go a little bit further on and see how we get on with it. But it's just not causing me any issues. You know, I did go down that sunken manhole grid and that one there, and it just kind of goes dunk dunk. You know, it's not dramatic. It's not crashing into them. It's not protesting. You can't hear a horrible noise as you're doing it. You know, it's there and you're aware of it, but the ride is okay. You know, the ride is absolutely fine. So this is more broken up, and again, I'm feeling it, but I'm hearing it more than I'm feeling it. So again, there's a sunken grid, clonk clonk, but it's more hearing it than anything else. I'm going to actually go up the hill because I need to run an errand. This tarmac's going to be even worse, and it is. One point to note, the turning circle on this car is absolute bobbins. It really has not got a good turning circle at all. You've got to allow for much bigger and sweeping bends as you go along. So the tarmac here really is, I mean, again, we're in the town, and you're onto people on back streets. I can feel it bobbling around. Okay, that won't dunk dunk. We definitely dropped down through a few of these, but on any car you're going to do that. The point is, it's not crashy. You know, it's going over these and it's just basically riding them. And this is one area where, frankly, having a longer wheelbase is an advantage, because you are going to ride over these. You know, I can go back to 2015. I drove a 3-door Mini Cooper, and that's got a really short wheelbase, and that was awful on this kind of road. Despite only having 16-inch wheels, it was awful because it was just so short that it was crashing over all of them. So we're going to take the coast road just because it's a bit more entertaining than the main A98 drag. Let's drive progressively, shall we? Yeah, let's go progressively along this road, and I can talk to you about what suspension ride and handling is like when you are enjoying a B road like this one. So I think the first thing that I would say is that with the weight so low down, this is nicely planted. You know, you do feel like you are hunkered properly onto the road, despite the fact, obviously, it's quite high up because it is a crossover, and you've got clearance under the wheels. But you know, it's comfortable, and you can feel where you're at. And like there, you know, a twist over the bridge. You know, I did a slightly sharper turn than I might have done normally, just to get a feel for it, and you know, it responds really nicely. It will flow through a series of bends very happily. And of course, I've got the long range version of the Tesla Model Y, which means that I have got an electric motor on both axles. So I've got all-wheel drive, and that does of course make for absolutely brilliant traction, which is kind of the point. You know, you want to get it so that you are, you know, so that you are able to put all of the power down quite comfortably, and that's what all-wheel drive does. So I basically swept into that one and put some nice turn in, and it goes around it brilliantly. Okay, we have got a twisty bit coming up. Again, we are going to ease back on the throttle with regen. This is a properly twisty bit. You see the road over there? We've got a long way to die first. So I am obviously driving responsibly, but I am going into these probably about as fast as you really want to do. And then we get down to the bottom with a big sweep. I'm actually having to hit the brake. That shows you I am making progress. Normally I am just on regen and covering it that way. Now I put the power on halfway round there, not lots of power because that'd be stupid, and again it pulls it really nicely up the hill and around the bend. So you can apply power whilst turning because you've got all-wheel drive, and that again is one of the advantages that having the long range over the standard range gives you, is that you've got that extra motor. So again, I'm on full regen, although I'm now braking because this one is quite tight, but I went into that last one, the left-hander, on full regen, and it's quite a tight turn and I was going quickly and it turned in beautifully. It handled it beautifully. This is the lift off turn in nose tightening that I've been talking about. It is really good. This road again is great. We're about to drop off the what feels like the edge of the world into the sea. Not quite. But look at this. Brakes again. You know what? I am using more brake pedal on this trip because we are making progress than I have done in a little while. Which is fun. And then we go down the hill. Now this is quite a sweep left, and I know there's a big bump there, which is why I've eased off. Otherwise you could potentially hit the bump and it's unsettle the steering, and then you need to be turning in, and oh mama, I'm not turning. But no problem there. Obviously we're onto a single tracker, so we're going to slow things down a little bit, but I will still, I'll give it a punt around a couple of these bends just to, you know, make the point. What we're going to do is we're going to do pedals and steering, and let's do sport steering and see what difference that makes. Okay, I mean it turns quicker. it definitely turns quicker. You know, you put less turn on the wheel and get more results. But I'll be honest, I am absolutely used to the amount of turn I need on standard, and I think sport gives you the potential to oversteer as you go into these. So I mean, I only need a little bit of steering now to make it do what I want it to do, which is quite entertaining. Like here, plenty of grip as we go, and only needing a little bit of steering input because of it. Slow down as we go past the works access. Yeah, we're good. And then obviously on a road like this, it is just all about cooperative driving, not driving like an absolute lunatic around bends where you can't see around them. You know, you've got to expect that something is going to be coming the other way. Around here it's probably a pickup truck, which is going to fill the road, so it's like now I'm taking it nice and steady until it clears a little bit, and then I'll speed back up again. Not far from home now, and there's actually only really one thing left to do on this trip. We're going to do that in a minute. So we've got a giveaway at this rural crossroads, and we've got a nice straight bit of road in front of us with nothing on it. So you know what we need to do, don't you? That never gets old. That is just so much power. Again, why do you need the performance version? And of course, because I'm all-wheel drive, it puts all the power down on both axles, all the wheels, all at once, which is why it goes like the scalded cat, or whatever analogy you want. Anyway, that is it for this video. I hope you found it interesting talking about the handling and ride of the Tesla Model Y. Don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the bell icon and all of the usual yada yada yada, and I'll see you very soon on the next one.